Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. It's amazing. Every time, everywhere, every political leader gives expression to the concept of free speech. But what happens then? It's always muzzled, suppressed, and touted as the most important ingredient of human rights. We have seen through the ages, everywhere, almost every time, it's crushed. The conflict between free speech has evolved since the first version of the ancient Athens and Rome to be fiercely contested over many centuries. And even though it made its way into the constitutions of two largest and the biggest democracies, India and USA. But it remains a tricky business. Amazing. No matter how enlightened the political leaders of a society are, inevitably they convince themselves that the free speech should be limited, restricted, restrained. No wonder that in Indian Constitution, the first amendment made to the Constitution was with regard to the freedom of speech. Ironically, this plea for change came from the very makers of the Constitution, who had ratified only 16 months back. 16 months and the vote to the free speech, led by Jawaharlal Nehru, put restrictions on the clause granting freedoms of speech to all the citizens on the grounds that this free speech was restricting social change, as if social change depends on the speeches of some people. Elon Musk was taking a deal to buy Twitter. An age-old debate around free speech emerged. Musk called himself a free speech absolutist. And he says that free speech is bedrock of a functional democracy. And Twitter is a digital town square where matters vital to the future are debated. And then, a day later, he clarified the statement. By free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. It's amazing. And its root, both of the voters of speech and the people who restrict free speech, go back into antiquity. Early 500 years before Christ, 5th century BC, we see the values of free speech being formalized for the first time in a city-state called Athens, where democracy in some form existed from 507 BCE to 322 BCE, 200 years. Athens had two different concepts of free speech. Isageria and Parageria, and overlap each other. Now, Isageria referred to the quality of free speech at equal level and was exercised inside the assembly. So inside the assembly you could say anything. But Parousia, on the other hand, translated uninhibited speech, allowed citizens to hold honest public opinion outside the assembly, including the sphere of theatre, philosophy, and literature. And if you look at it, the practice of free speech in Athens, through Isageria and Parousia, were a perfection against a government that could tyrannize the people. That was great. But then, look at what happens. And the most noteworthy champion of Parousia was the famed orator Demosthenes. His surviving speeches even today are known to mention the word freedom 26 times, which more than any other Athenian spokesman or statesman did. For Demosthenes, a functioning democracy would center around open debate, which he believed to be led to truth. Free speech, Demosthenes believed, is what distinguishes Athens from the ritual, oligarchic Sparta. And while Athenians were free to criticize their own constitution and praise the Spartans could only praise their own. In this context, I remember what happened between Khrushchev and Kennedy. Kennedy said that in USA you have a free speech and any man can come up to the Capitol and condemn and criticize and abuse the president. And Khrushchev, the party is well known, he said, well, anybody can come to Red Square, Kremlin, and criticize US president, we have no problem. So that is the free speech and the restriction. And Athenian democracy was not without limitations. Imagine those who proposed legislation in assembly that went against the established law were subject to a punishment which was a legal procedure known as graphe paranomum. And the punishment to Socrates, 399 BC, for his political and religious ideals is famous. He indulged in free speech and he was given a death sentence. And his statement was great. If you offer to let me off on one condition, that I am no longer to speak my mind, I would say to you, men of Athens, I shall obey the God rather than you. So, the first blow to the free speech came in the Sicilian campaign of 419 BC. And a group of Athenian oligarchy called the 400 overthrew the first democracy. Now this was the first thing. Look at then what happened later on. Ancient Rome had a special place for the idea of liberty, and Roman citizens, regardless of rank, could not be subject to domination and the right to protest the decision of those in power. But again, it changed in England. The subtle art of division was noted right from the beginning. 17th century, through the censorship of a great movement, it was a battery of legal instruments was created to crush free speech. Kings were saying divine right of kings. Ultimately the revolution, Charles first beheading, Charles II coming, then the glorious revolution, starting with Magna Carta, but Magna Carta is lauded as the first document granting free speech. But it was free speech only for the noblemen, not for the common people. The serfs, the hewers of wood, and drawers of water had no free speech. Charles I succeeded James I and carried a tradition of repression in very aggressive way. The students of history are aware how the freedom of speech was condemned, criticized. But then people like Milton were there, who penned Agrippetitia, a plea for press freedom that was established unlicensed the following year. And Milton, like Greek and Roman predecessors, believed that the censorship led to the truth being denied. I love his statement when he says, give me liberty to know, to utter, and to argue freely according to the conscience above all other liberties. So much of the second half of the 17th century in England was replete with the religious conflicts between Protestants and Catholics. And Catholics were being executed for treason, simply because you believed in Catholicism was an act of treason. So this continued. Come to USA, the custodian today, the self-proclaimed leader of free speech. We know that right from the first day they were talking of freedom in all ways. The first college to establish freedom of its religion was Rhode Island, and that continued. But then it was started to crush. The First Amendment, the freedom of speech, has always been crushed. Sometime on the base of the national security, sometime for the social upliftment, but every time we have seen that the dissenters, the people who object, have been crushed one way or the other. The American Revolution of the late 18th century was absolutely revolutionizing it. But the Constitution, which has not been amended as many times as the Indian Constitution has, but still freedom of speech is violated in various ways, like in Canada. You have the freedom of speech, but if you toe the government lines, you are giving money, so you are bought. The freedom is economic freedom as well. There should be equality. Indian Constitution, we have seen that it overboard people were overwhelmingly in favor of free speech. And 16 months passed, the Zimidari Act, abolition of landlords was to be there, and the First Amendment found, and Nehru came on May 16, 1951. 1 year, 4 months after the Constitution, and thundered. Somehow other we have found that the magnificent Constitution we framed was kidnapped and purloined by lawyers. Imagine. And his disappointment was on account of the fact that the several Congress party members opposed the schemes of Zimidari abolition, nationalization of industries, reservation of backward classes and the like. And they were halted. And imagine, to swim people were saying that. And Nehru said that we cannot permit press or judiciary to interfere in our agenda. So, right 16 months after the Constitution was divided, the freedom is crushed. Then the infamous emergency came up and things continued. And the bill was proposed to curb speech, including interest, security of the state, and these are always the pleas taken, security of state, country's defense, and sometimes relations with the foreign powers. And the votaries also of free speech supported. So eventually what happens? That the free speech remains a chimera. It is a mirage. And the whole talk of free speech is nothing but an attempt to hoodwink people. As a matter of fact, the amendments in the Indian Constitution and the unwritten amendments, but the executive orders in USA, we have seen that the relationship between the state and the citizens has been altered all the time. Free speech has all been curtailed. It's not necessary for the security of the state to be seriously undermined to proscribe free speech. No way. It is in the interest of the men at the helm of affairs to curb free speech. And that is the most unfortunate thing that can happen. And that's happening all the time. As I said, you have all the freedom to speak as long as you do not hurt me. Me stands for the people and authority. Their interests, their likings, their dislikings. And if you can do that, voila, then you have got all the freedom to speak. I know and I agree that unlimited freedom should not be there. You cannot insult somebody, you cannot hate somebody, you cannot spread hatred and division and enmity. No way. But the ideas, thoughts should not be curbed. We have no right to crush the creativity. Free speech stands for the creativity of human mind. And if we cannot do that, we had better say goodbye to our right of freedom, to our liberty, to our thoughts, and to all our claim of being civilized, cultured, thoughtful human beings. Free speech within limitations of decency, public order, decorum are required, and that can be done, that shall be ideal. Thank you.